He's going to score. McCoy into the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown, Buffalo!
Good morning, Bills fans, and it is a good Monday morning. Welcome to Monday Morning Breakdown. I'm John Murphy alongside Bills Insider from BuffaloBills.com. Chris Brown here for the next several minutes on various social media platforms to talk more about yesterday's stunning upset victory, 27-6, the Bills over the Minnesota Vikings. Chris, clearly, to my mind, one of the most surprising, actually shocking upset victories I've ever been around with this football team.
There's a ton of national media guys tweeting yesterday how historic the win was. I mean, in light of what the point spread was, which I think got as high as 17 come the end of the weekend there before kickoff, and then to win not only outright, but convincingly by 21 points. I mean, that's just, it's unheard of.
Yeah, and it happened quickly. It happened so quickly in this game. And, of course, it's the first win for rookie quarterback Josh Allen, 7th overall pick, in his first road game. And he was really good yesterday. Another major, significant step forward, I thought, for Josh Allen. 15 to 22 passing in the game for 196 yards. Threw for 1 touchdown, ran for 2. He was just outstanding. The best thing for me, Chris, about Josh Allen now, and he's got, 2.5 games of play, is that he never looks overmatched. He always looks composed and in the moment. He never looks like he doesn't belong there. That day may be out there someday, but we haven't seen it yet in his first 2.5 games in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, even in the instances where he leaves the pocket perhaps prematurely and doesn't stick with his progressions for an extra half second, which he criticized himself for at one point in the post-game press conference, he doesn't look skittish when he does it. He looks like, okay, well, I'm going to buy some time over here and let me see what I got and let me try to make something happen. He's just cool as a cucumber. So, I just think he's a guy that doesn't get rattled by much of anything. And we heard Coach McDermott say that in the preseason. He's pretty even-keeled. Yeah. He's steady Eddie, and nothing really gets to him. So it was nice to see. And granted, a lot of things went the right way in this game, so there's no reason to really be all that skittish. So he did well.
You know what else I like about Josh Allen, among the many things to like, is his competitive fire. Yes, he's in his rookie year. He's only in his second NFL start. He's on the road facing a very tough opponent, the Minnesota Vikings, but he's ready to play, and he's ready to compete no matter what the situation and no matter what the score. And in yesterday's game, he used his feet. He's a good athlete. He's a much better athlete than I think any of us knew. And he can run the football. He did it very effectively yesterday, as we say, ran for 2 touchdowns in yesterday's game. This is a guy who will always look to get the first down, and he runs the ball very well with his athleticism, whether it's in the scrambling or even some of the called runs. There are times, I think, when observers think, oh, don't do that, Josh, don't do that, don't run it, but he's really good at it, and he knows what he's doing. This 10-yard touchdown run, this, I think, a function of him getting a good read and then extending, right, with a 6'5" frame, using his length to extend over the pylon to get the touchdown, a sensational touchdown
That's
run.
That's Anthony Barr he's out running, by the way. That is one of the faster linebackers in the entire league, and then he leaps over Anthony Barr here, too. And I got to tell you, Murph, just from my vantage point, I was facing the Bills' sideline. When he made that play, the sideline erupted like I haven't seen before. They see a rookie quarterback making plays like that, putting his body on the line like that, it charges the whole team up. I asked some guys in the locker room about it. They said, oh, my God, I had so much juice, I was ready to go back out there and play defense right then.
Yeah, he ran it well yesterday. And on the leap over Anthony Barr, what got me was that it was 3rd and 9, and he knew he had to get 10 yards to extend the drive. Now, many quarterbacks, and people say it's smart move sometimes when quarterbacks do this, they'll slide or they'll avoid the tackle. No, Josh Allen knew where the sticks were, knew that he had to get by Anthony Barr, and was able to get it with the first down. That's an example of the competitive spirit that I think serves him well.
He's the leading rusher on this team for the season.
He's
got 97 yards rushing. I don't know that we want it either, but I just think it points to his athleticism again. I mean, who are you talking about since Josh Allen? Tyrod Taylor was an athletic quarterback, but he wasn't nearly the complete package. Doug Flutie, I know we were talking before we came on the air here, another guy that was very athletic who could also throw the football with efficiency. So he's one of the more athletic quarterbacks we've seen at this position in team history.
I agree with that. He's athletic, he's long, he's tall, and he uses all of that to make plays. All right, let's get into 4-down territory now, and we'll start with the Buffalo defense. The Buffalo defense with a great day, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 5 quarterback hits, and they got an awful lot from Jerry Hughes in this game. I thought Hughes was really one of the standout players on the field. He was relentless and did a great job around the left tackle Reef, right?
I talked to Jerry after the game in the locker room, and I said, because the one move that looked like it was working all day was he would dip his shoulder right as Reef would go to punch. and Reef could not sink his hips and get low enough to get Jerry's shoulder. So that move was working all day long. My neighbor, who I saw on my way to my car this morning on the way to work, he said, boy, Jerry Hughes looked like Von Miller yesterday.
He did.
He looked that good. He was dominant. I mean, how long have we been waiting for that?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think Jerry Hughes has had a string of good performances this year.
Yes, no, he's played well this year.
Yeah, even with the 2 losses, I thought he was a standout defensively. He's been outstanding. Kyle Williams had a big sack, and a lot of that was because of the work that Star Lotulelei did in the middle of the defensive line, that particular sack. People wonder what Star Lotulelei doing. He's taking up 2 blockers. He's doing exactly what he has to do.
And Trent Murphy, made some contributions as well. Got the early sack and forced fumble. I think people were waiting to see. They were saying, hey, you spent all this money on your defensive front. Where are the results? We saw the results yesterday from Lotulelei and from Murphy.
Second down in our look at 4 down territory deals with the second-year linebacker, Matt Milano, the Boston College draftee, played safety in college. His athleticism stood out yesterday. He was all over the field. An amazing stat line. 8 tackles, 1 sack. That fumble recovery right there. He also had an interception in the game. Matt Milano can fly, and he was flying yesterday. They still spell him a little bit. They still put Ramon Humber in there at his spot, but when Milano was on the field yesterday, he was making a difference with great athleticism and great speed. I think that's his trademark.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting that a lot of their blitz looks, Milano was the 5th rusher to go with the front 4. In previous weeks, we've seen Edmonds blitz a little bit. Today they left Edmonds on Sunday they left Edmonds in coverage a large degree of the time, and Milano was the blitzing linebacker yesterday, and it worked quite well. So they may just look at his straight line speed and say, you know what, let's keep doing that because he can go run and hunt.
Yeah, he's an outstanding defender. All right, we talked about defense now in our 4 downs. Let's take a look at the Buffalo offense. We already talked about Josh Allen, his contributions. A lot of that, I believe, was because of the game plan set up by Brian Daboll. A little bit different than what they did in the first 2 games. Kind of reflecting back to what they did, I thought, in the preseason opener against Carolina. A variety of offensive formations early on in the game. They had a 9-play scoring series, Buffalo's first possession. Chris, I guarantee you they had 8, maybe 9 different formations offensively, and they changed them effortlessly, got them in on time, and did a great job of mixing up looks and personnel and moved right down the field. I thought Brian Daboll was outstanding.
Yeah, and I know you said you thought it was reminiscent of the first preseason game when all those formations and personnel groupings were coming on the field against Carolina back in August. You look at them using the screen game early and then playing off of that to get defensive backs to bite, and how open was Jason Kroom. I mean, they totally sold that play and got a touchdown out of it. But, I usually chart the plays, and in the first half, they only technically had 5 different personnel groupings, but it's how those groupings are deployed.
Yeah.
Like they had a 2-back set with split backs between Ivory and Marcus Murphy. Then they had another 2-back set. Pat DeMarco's wide left outside the numbers, the fullback.
Yeah.
I mean, and then they had a couple of 2 tight end sets, but those 2 tight ends weren't on the line. They were detached on opposite sides. So there was a whole bunch. So yes, you have certain formations or personnel groupings, but the way they deploy those guys across the front is seemingly different every time, and it had the Vikings on their heels.
Yeah, look, it's not rocket science, but it's a lot, I think, especially with a rookie quarterback, to see him execute that. But I thought Daboll did a great job of putting the Bills in good position. All right, 4th down as we continue through 4 down territory. What impact will the big upset win have on the Bills' season? Who knows, Chris? I mean, who knew they were going to go in there and play the way they did yesterday? I will tell you this. I come away with 2 takeaways. Number 1, it's a long season. And going into that game yesterday, people thought the Bills were dead, right? That they had no chance of competing. You don't know. Anybody who tries to write the story of the season after 1 or 2 games, that's a fool's errand. You just don't do that. And because of yesterday, it's a new season for the Buffalo Bills, right? The whole season is open up to them now. They may accomplish much more than anybody thought. Just because they demonstrated themselves, they can go on the road, take down a good opponent, and dominate that good opponent.
Right, and you don't want to go so far as to say the win yesterday turned into a reclamation project, but it was looking pretty dire after 0-2. The offense was stuck in neutral. They weren't producing points. So to see this turnaround, I think is very encouraging to Bills fans, and it's not just a win. It's a quality win against a playoff contending team in the NFC. That is what carries so much weight with this victory.
27-6 victory over the Minnesota Vikings. That's our 4 down territory. As usual on the show, on the Monday Morning Breakdown, we like to interact with you. We've got some feedback from social media, and
Yeah,
it's
let's
time
do
to
it.
take a look at some of the crowd noise, some of the noise coming from you out there in the audience today. The first respondent wants to talk about Chris Ivory. Tiffany Daniels on Twitter. Chris Ivory quietly had a big day keeping the Bills' offense balanced. He was not spectacular, but solid, filling in admirably for McCoy. He's quite an upgrade from last year's backup running backs. Huge win yesterday. Go Bills. I agree. And look, I think I said this pregame. I know that there is no other LaShawn McCoy on this roster. There's no other LaShawn McCoy on anybody's NFL roster. But the Bills are pretty well stacked at running back, at least, in a roster that's full of a lot of holes. And Chris Ivory is a big part of that. Just a big day for him. I don't know how quietly his big day was, as a matter of fact. I thought he was pretty sensitive.
He had 126 total yards from scrimmage.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got that from LaShawn McCoy yesterday, you would have taken it, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So, I mean, for Ivory to do that, kudos to him. And I was impressed with the plays he made in the passing game. I remember talking to him in training camp, and he said, I am underrated as a receiver. Everybody sees this hard-running north-south running back. They think he's got frying pans for hands.
Yeah.
The guy can catch the ball and make plays in the passing
Yeah.
game, and he did it yesterday. And, I know his yards per carry average isn't going to look good from yesterday's game, but you have to remember in the second half, he was just plowing ahead for 1 or 2 yards when they were trying to kill clock. So that's why his average isn't looking that good on paper.
All right, more crowd noise. And this next respondent has a comment about the roster on Facebook. Fyodor Wisniewski says, do you think we need to bring in a receiver to bring a spark into our passing game? Oh, it's hard to think about that right now.
That was you were lamenting there.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Look, they got it done yesterday.
Yeah.
They got good contributions from people like Andre Holmes, I thought.
There were some drops.
Yes, there were drops. Eventually, speaking of drops, Foster's going to hook up on a big play with Josh Allen, right? They keep going to
Just
it.
missed.
He is the deep threat, and I think eventually that's going to happen. So I wouldn't be in a rush. First of all, where are you going to find a receiver at this late stage?
Well,
and I'm not interested in a trade right now.
And on a second level, I think Kroom is starting to emerge as a viable receiving threat as a tight end. They split him wide. He's very rarely on the line. He's usually detached and running routes because he's a converted wide receiver from college, played tight end his last 2 years in school. So I think what you have there is another option to turn to, and he certainly came through yesterday with the touchdown catch. So I think that's a guy who's coming on. I don't know how quickly he's coming on, but instead of maybe adding someone from the street, that may be a guy you turn to a few more times in the play call sheet.
Yeah, one more bit of crowd noise we have. And this one comes from Derek Oliver on Facebook. What must the Bills do to help the quarterback position? Chris, once again, they're shorthanded at cornerback. They got through it yesterday, playing with some guys a little bit out of position. You would think eventually they're going to get some of these people back, right? I would think Gaines is going to come back soon.
You would hope so, but here's the problem. Yesterday, Taron Johnson goes out of the game. It looks like his arm's falling off his shoulder there. He did come back in, to his credit. You want to talk about a gutsy performance. Taron Johnson, I mean, he's playing with one arm basically in the latter stages of that game. I don't know what his status is going to be going into this week's game. So now your nickel corner is up in the air again this week, and we'll know officially from Coach McDermott when he addresses the media at 4 o'clock. But the fact remains that he's a question mark, and then even Ryan Lewis, who in his first career start played a heck of a game outside there. I mean, Jordan Poyer was singing his praises. He goes, I didn't know the guy's name 2 days ago. But he said, I couldn't believe the performance he gave us. It was great. So kudos to him. But he was a guy that went down a couple of times. I hope it was something minor, but he had to exit the game once, come back in. So we don't know what his status is. So those are 2 more guys in addition to Gaines. You don't know what your numbers are going to look like maybe until Wednesday. You may have to make a premature decision on Tuesday just to cover your bases as insurance.
Again, there's not a whole lot, you wouldn't think a whole lot out there on the street that would help them in the defensive backfield spot. They're just kind of muddling through, I think.
Got Levi Wallace on the practice squad, the undrafted rookie. That's the only other guy you have right now.
They're just trying to muddle through here and get through it until everybody's healthy and ready to go. All right, every week on our Monday morning breakdown, we like to take a look around the league and some of the other games around the league. We call it our 2-minute offense. We take a look at what's going on around the NFL in our 2-minute offense. Chris and I will get through it. And we'll start with next week's opponents for the Bills, the Green Bay Packers in Washington. Alex Smith played outstanding, 2 touchdown passes for the Redskins in this game. And that one was a strike downfield. They also got a great game from Adrian Peterson, the ageless veteran, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. And the Redskins beat the Packers 31-17 in this game. Green Bay with Clay Matthews with that late hit in the game, another illegal hit on the quarterback. He can't believe it.
Carson Wentz in his return to the lineup gets a victory for Philadelphia. There's a touchdown pass to the rookie tight end Dallas Goedert. Wendell Smallwood also had a touchdown to go ahead late in that game. as the Eagles beat the Colts.
Dolphins are now 3-0. Do you believe that? And they got trick plays yesterday. Albert Wilson with a 52-yard touchdown pass right here in the game, early in the game, or late in the game, fourth quarter, and the Dolphins take the lead on that play. And then it's Wilson again, this time a 74-yard touchdown catch as he knifed through all that traffic. The Dolphins beat the Raiders 28-20. They are 3-0. They've beaten three bad teams, Tennessee, the Jets, and Oakland. However, we'll see how that stands up for them.
Kansas City Chiefs and Pat Mahomes still white hot right now. Now has 13 touchdown passes in his first 3 starts this season. And you see one there. Chiefs win again. At the end of the game, near the end of the game, a bad non-contact injury for Jimmy Garoppolo. His knee buckles on a scramble. They fear he's got a torn ACL. We'll find out more today.
And then you got the Arizona Cardinals who want to get a look at Josh Rosen. They had a 14-0 lead. It got away. The Bears hit a fourth quarter field goal to go up 16-14. They bring in Josh Rosen, trying to get their rookie quarterback into the mix. He gets drilled as he throws that pass, throws the interception, and the Cardinals go to 0-3. And we'll see how that plays out for them at 0-3 with their quarterback.
Sunday Night Football, the Lions with a big win over the Patriots. Tom Brady, anemic on offense, just 166 passing yards. Also had a pick, Darius Slay with this interception midway through the fourth quarter. Detroit wins this game for Matt Patricia, former defensive coordinator of the Pats, as he beats his former mentor 26-10. The Pat Smurf are 1-2.
A perfect day for Bills fans yesterday, really. When you get the upset win for the Bills on the road in Minnesota, and then they had to stay up late to watch the Packers lose. The AFC East picture, the Dolphins 3-0. As I mentioned earlier, though, I'm not sold on the Dolphins, Chris. I don't think that they're that talented. I hear people talk about how they feel like they've got the right chemistry on the team, the right characters. They beat Tennessee at home. They beat the Jets on the road, and they beat Oakland yesterday at home. Dolphins 3-0 on top, and then everybody else is 1-2, but that's not going to stand.
Right. I mean, the teams Miami has beaten are not considered world beaters, at least in the early stages of this season. They don't look great. I mean, Oakland's 0-3 now. The Jets, after a very impressive Week 1 performance, have come back down to earth. Just gave the Browns their first win in, 635 days? I think everybody feels that the Patriots are usually a much better team in November and December than they typically are in September and October.
That's been their history. Okay, so let's take a look ahead at the week to come, which ends with the Green Bay Packers game at Lambeau on Sunday. But before that, the Bills have some injury issues to look at this week, including LaShawn McCoy, who did not play yesterday. He doesn't miss much action. He hasn't since he's been with the Bills. With the ribs, though, I would anticipate the Bills are going to get him through the practice week, probably on a limited basis, and hope that they have him ready for Sunday.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if he still got that red non-contact jersey on in practice through the course of the week. They don't want anybody touching him. Who knows? Maybe LaShawn takes a look at the league rankings and says, oh, Green Bay, 26th ranked run defense. I might be able to do something this week. Maybe nobody can touch me, and I won't have to worry about getting hit 18, 20 times in the rib cage.
All right, also this week, it's interesting to keep an eye on Trent Murphy. He left the game with about 4 minutes to go yesterday with an ankle injury. We know he's had issues in and out of the lineup. Now, Shaq Lawson hasn't played in 2 weeks.
Right.
If they're both injuries issues this week, that's going to be a problem. We'll see how they kind of nurse Trent Murphy through the week and see if he's ready for Sunday.
Otherwise, it's a whole lot of Nate Orchard, who did have to play late in that game. And I think he had a batted pass in the time that he was in the game when he was rotating in. So there's somebody to plug the hole. But obviously, after seeing what Trent Murphy did yesterday, you'd certainly like to see more of that, because that pass rush group with him, Lorenzo, Kyle, and Jerry has worked really well for 2 weeks now.
And on Sunday, it's another trip to the Midwest to play the Green Bay Packers. 1 win, 1 loss, 1 tie. It's an odd record to have.
It's the same record as the Vikings.
That's right. And the Packers are going to be motivated at home, and they have really maybe the preeminent quarterback of the NFL right now, and Aaron Rodgers, who's a little bit banged up. He's been limping around the last couple of weeks.
And they're saying they're not sure that knee injury is going to get better as long as he keeps playing on it. It may get actually worse, and he's played with a brace. So his mobility is compromised, no question.
It's going to be a lot to talk about this week. We'll have a great week talking about it on One Bills Live coming up today at 12 noon. Steve Tasker and I host that show. Chris Brown will be with us. Matt Milano will be with us today. You want to tune in on our flagship radio station in Buffalo, WGR, Sports Radio 550, and on MSG. All right, Chris, thanks. Another Monday Morning Breakdown. Thanks very much.
This one was far more enjoyable.
It was. Yeah, we'll talk to you again next Monday for the Bills Monday Morning Breakdown right here. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, everybody.